Hello everyone, welcome back to the final refrain. Been a little bit of a delay here to get this last game going, but we are ready to go tonight. This is our semi-final match. Take a look at our bracket here. Lots of incredible adaptive players have been knocked out. We are down to the final four and really the final three because one of these matches has already been played. So now we get to see which of these two between, oops, Karenfox and Stormstrong. Looks like we missed moving that over. We got it circled, but it's on the wrong side, but that's okay. Zoc, welcome in. All right. Karen has been tearing it up both in Kagi Top Cut and in the final refrain. One of the few players who have been bringing the same deck every time. We'll see if we're seeing that again tonight, but it's been tough, been very scary. Lots of good players been taken out by it, so we'll see if she can replicate that again tonight against Stormstrong. Again, same thing. Stormstrong has been playing different decks, but some well-known decks. Got that Kagi live deck that made an appearance here, and some other ones. But again, solid adaptive competitor. Let's see if he can make it into the finals versus this incredible opponent. Taking a look at the decks, no surprise here. Karen is coming back with Soybach. That's as good as a pronunciation as you're gonna get. If you haven't seen this deck played before, it is really something to watch. Very difficult deck to play, which is perfect for adaptive. It's very strong. It has a sort of not inevitable, but it has an infinite combo basically. Astron, welcome in. This is a deck you probably know decently well. Basically, there's the Well of Memory, which you can use to essentially purge your entire deck because on the turns you play the Well of Memory, if you have one of those discard pips, you can also discard your where is he? Bonded Auctioneer, which will bounce the Well of Memory back to hand, meaning you can just loop Well of Memory, purging most of your deck. And as we've seen, the strategy most of the time is to purge down to just a few Brobnar cards, the Recklessnesses and the Memorialize the Fallen and Berserker Slam. And you basically just lock your opponent out. They can't gain Amber because of the Memorialize. You're gaining Amber, you're disrupting their hand, and it gets very difficult to beat. But getting to that point is not always easy. It is a tricky deck to play, especially in the early game. It can get outpaced. So we'll see what Stormstrong brings. Again, most people coming against Karen know or have a guess that this is the deck they're playing against. So we'll see if it actually pays off for Stormstrong. Architect, welcome in. Good to see some people here. I wasn't sure. This is a little bit last minute getting these scheduled. Again, we had a little bit of a delay with this one, but yeah, glad to see an audience here for what should be a pretty good game. Stormstrong bringing Skunkish Decidemona of the District. This is a PV deck. We've only seen a couple PV decks in this tournament so far, and one of those was also one played against, I believe that was played against Soybach. But I might be mixing that up with Kagi now. Anyways, we've got Logos, Shadows, Untamed. You're seeing lots of the normal Shadow stuff there. Double Miasma, Hoodwink. We do have a Hawk, but again, destroying the Well of Memory is difficult because it gets bounced a lot and doesn't always help you a whole lot because of the cycle ability there. But we do have a decent amount of efficiency in Logos. We have an Infomancer, which is going to be looking to tuck plenty of juicy actions under there. Those miasmas can basically be a soft lock if your opponent doesn't have any key cheats or artifact control. Rage Reset, always good for disrupting. And then the Untamed here does not have some of the crazy looping stuff we've seen in some Untamed from this set, but it does have a Spooky Charge Legacy that is also pipped into Shadows. So that Shadows can do some pretty nasty stuff if you're able to steal a bunch and then drop that. We also see it's Rigged Lottery. At first I was thinking that was the artifact. So for the prophecies, we've got Stars Aligned, Tails You Lose, Cards Will Tell, and Trust Your Feelings. Trust Your Feelings, always a good one. Tails You Lose can be okay. Stars Aligned is actually doable against Soybach in the early game. It does need to play some creatures pretty often, so it is doable. You also have things, some nice fate effects like Chummy. We also have Prince Bufo in there, so several key cheats possible. Let's take a look at our matchup here. Okay, and the players are making the match, so we'll move over there in a second. Creature control is very low on Stormstrong's side, but again, all that disruption from PV decks can often counter that, but you do see some of those being in fade effects. Also, that Lost in the Woods, not too bad. Yeah, PV and adaptive is interesting. I don't feel like this is a crazy strong deck from what I've seen of other adaptive. Only 10 amber control, or from other PV decks, only 10 amber control. Does have some artifact control though in that Hawk. The Logos being really the powerhouse, and then some nice Shadows actions, and then the Untamed doing some key cheat stuff. So I think it'll still be an interesting deck. Again, you don't have the ask again later. It's just the one where you have to choose which house you think your opponent's going to play first. But should be interesting. And then, of course, Soybach on Karen's side has plenty of creature control to deal with all those pesky little Logos creatures. And actually, the Logos creatures are something that I think Soybach actually loves to see, because this deck loves to BR Geist its opponent's creatures so that they don't get archived by the Winds of Death. And so being able to grab things like ZYX Researcher actually feels pretty great if you're Karen, trying to get those snatched up. And I misspoke. I said Infomancer you could only get rid of if you had artifact control, but it is not an artifact. That is the creature one. Mimolith is the one that is an artifact that can be really nasty with the grafted cards. All right, let's see where our players are at. All right, we are ready to go. Let's hop on over. And I will get Karen's deck name up there on a minute. I have to copy it off here because it's just the worst. All right. Again, we've got Karen on top playing Soybach for game 1, and then Stormstrong playing Skunkish game 1. Not sure who's got first player yet here. Again, those prophecies for Stormstrong. Trust your feelings, going to be the strongest one if you kind of know what house Karen is going into, which this deck is pretty easy to call after a little bit. It's either going to be Geistoid or Brobnar most of the time, and it's usually Geistoid until the Brobnar is fairly set up. But very nice if you need to do Amber, or if you need to stop the Amber control from Brobnar coming down. So you can time this pretty well. Tails you lose being the other half of that is pretty rough. That means you're only really going to get probably these prophecies most of the game. Stars aligned, again, is possible. And Cards Will Tell is just not as good as you would think, especially against something like this. So Well of Memory does not draw you cards. It replaces cards with cards in your discard. And so this one does not actually proc nearly as much as you might think. You do have the Recklessness, though. So actually against Recklessness, this will fire. So could be some interesting things happening there. We'll just have to see. Again, this is something that I would be shocked if Stormstrong didn't practice a little bit. Just everyone kind of knows this is coming now, and it hasn't mattered yet. So we'll see if Karen can keep that streak going. Players are going through deck lists quick. So obviously, strength of the deck does not necessarily determine who's going to win the adaptive match here. What do we think between these two decks? I think Soybach probably still has an advantage. Reading is hard. It's late. All right. I mean, it's not that late. It's kind of late. And if you haven't played as much PV, there's a lot of stuff on here to be looking at. Things like Lithomancy, you got to remember what that does, kind of a rare artifact. Oh, I guess that's just uncommon. For some reason, I thought that was rare. It was bugged for a while, so I know much about Lithomancy. We also have the Mercurial Wormhole, which is pretty fun. All right, so Stormstrong is going first. I'm going to go ahead and just note that. I mean, I think that's fair. You do get to see your opponent playing it first, and if you feel like you have the stronger deck, or at least a stronger deck, you're not bringing like a mid-level or a low-level deck, there's a good chance they'll have to pull out the stops of their deck to beat yours, which again, seeing the large game-winning stuff is not that difficult anymore for a lot of us who've been playing for a long time. So much of this, and I think they touched on this a little bit in the last Archon's Corner podcast, so much of it, or Cats and Dogs did, trying to defend adaptive on there. So much of it is the micro decisions, just the small things. Are you going to hold, discard, or keep a card? What are you going to recur with some of those recursion cards? All of those little decisions are a lot tougher and things you have to learn more about decks compared to the big flashy combos that we can kind of all see. Like pretty much everyone knows now how Soybok ends the game, but getting there takes so many smaller decisions that makes it actually a lot more interesting. Yeah, sealed is also very good for micro decisions. All right, so we do have Lithomancy down on Stormstrong side, revealing a Code Monkey. So fact there, or interesting note there, the card here does not get discarded unless it is of the house you have called. Stormstrong has moved through several cards already. Kind of missed some of this. Oh, a lot of that was actually off the Recklessness. We had a Recklessness very early on. We do get a Geistoid Call on the Trust Your Feelings, and then some Untamed Creatures coming down, trying to get some value out of this Vivid Fairy. Decent amount of Untamed here for Stormstrong, though. Going to get this out of the way, try and get into some more of that Logos and Shadows value for the late game. There's the Plummet from Karen, always a really good one to see at this point. Just trying to cycle, find that Well of Memory. We do see the Bonded Auctioneer in the discard now, so ready to get brought back by the Well of Memory anytime. And the Looter Goblin Reap there also means that Karen is getting to check. So already 6 amber to 0. Stormstrong does have the prophecies here, but the only one that can proc before Keyforges would be the Stars Aligned. See, the ZYX researcher here does archive the Prince Bufo. I think that makes sense. Just trying to keep some options. Ooh, Parallel Thinking hits BR Geist and Recklessness. Now, if that had hit the Well of Memory, this would have been a pretty intense game. Those random discards can actually really wreck this. I learned that in my game against Soybok in Kagi, where if you lose the Well of Memory just into your discard too early, game gets hard real fast. Okay, Stormstrong does get the Steel 2 there, does get some Amber off of a Code Monkey, archiving that Designer Crick and the ZYX Researcher along with the Prince Bufo in the archives here. And then we do get a Stars Aligned, which I'm trying to remember. I thought Stars Aligned, oh, there's still a creature on the board. I believe Stars Aligned should trigger if there's no creatures on either side. But the Trust Your Feelings going off for the Geistoid with a Chummy under there, making Karen have to pay Stormstrong 2 Amber. Get the Hallowed Eve Festival, but that's not going to be able to stop a key without anything to capture on. And then Winds of Death, archiving a lot on both sides, but Karen going up to 10 archives, which is so much ammo for the Well of Memory once it comes down. We saw it's a lot of Untamed and a decent amount of Logos here for Stormstrong in that archives. A few other things might have been discarded. Stormstrong does get the first key though, Forging Yellow. Having to think about this turn, trying to figure out if it's worth pulling these archives. It's a tough call. I think that Prince Bufo staying in the archives or being a threat is pretty big against Karen's game plan. That's one of the things we haven't seen played against it too much is key cheats. They really get around some of what this deck is trying to do. We do get Trust Your Feelings for Geistoid again, so this could be the Rage Reset. We haven't seen that yet. which could really disrupt any kind of Well of Memory plays, depending on what it hits. Even, yeah, I'd have to hit the Well of Memory because you got plenty of ammo in the archives. Lots more logos coming down. We do see rigged lottery. That's actually a pretty fun call to put that under the Infomancer. Just a way to mill Karen's deck. And there's the Rage Reset. Does hit the Well of Memory there. So good old Rage Reset. Causing rage. I'm not even playing and I'm mad. It's just, it's such a card. And then with Designer Crick now, all that amber getting captured because of those discards. It's something. It's certainly a card. Very, very big here to be able to discard that. Although you're pretty close to cycling. You have 10 cards in archives already, so getting back to it shouldn't be crazy hard. The game's not going so fast as long. Oh, isn't able to do anything this turn, so the only play she had was the Well of Memory there in Geistoid, so I'm going to take a nothing turn. See if Stormstrong actually goes for the mill here. He does. So I think that's tricky. I think that actually helps Karen. Because Karen really wants to get back to this well. We do see both Winds of Death in there now, which is not good news for Karen, as well as that plummet. So most of your board control is not going to be available this turn. So this logo's just going to possibly run away with this here. Trust Your Feelings getting activated again here. Saw the Foreseer come down, and then the Zeph Punch Yardis. Still a really large hand for... Ooh, there's the Prince Bufo. Yeah, I'm going for Brobnar. So very, very good stuff here. Just really able to play around some of Karen's options. But okay, here's the other options for board control is just 9 Brobnar creatures. It's not 9, but a decent amount of Brobnar creatures. You do have the Shock Herder in there with this Thunderdell. It's going to be able to take out plenty of stuff. Although we do have some elusives. Elusive here. I guess that's the only one. So you do have to kind of decide what is your primary target with this fighting. Let's see. Fiery Jark and Countryside Crusher are gone. So actually, it's not too many creatures even in Brobnar for Karen here. And do we see... Memorialize is gone anyways, so this Brobnar call probably wouldn't have actually stopped the key regardless, but the Prince Bufo just makes it a non-issue. Okay, so we see all those middle creatures getting taken out by the Thunderdell. Looter Goblin comes down. The pulling the archives there does mean Karen's not going to cycle anytime soon. So kind of has to win with this Brobnar board, or at least get things under control here with this Brobnar board. Because the rest of these creatures, all this Equidon and stuff, is not really going to get you there. How many BR Geists are we looking at? No BR Geists left. Yikes. Yeah, this is a tough spot for Karen, I think. There's a Hawk, there's a Bandit Culver. Bone Rot Venom going on the Looter Goblin. You can still use the Looter Goblin's ability. It will just die immediately afterwards. Chummy comes down as a creature. We do get to Trust Your Feelings for Brobnar again. Stars Aligned is a Mog, which is going to stun a couple of these Brobnar creatures. Interesting. I kind of wonder if you call it different house than Brobnar for this, since you know you're going to stun the problem creatures here, but probably not a huge deal. So now we get to see a bunch of these Equidon creatures come down. Again, the creature control in Skunkish is very small. So if Karen can find Amber control to stop this game from ending prematurely, which is going to be very difficult because there's also the Spooky Charge, which we, I believe, have not seen yet. Yeah, Spooky Charge could just end this game right here. But if you can find the Amber control, you might be able to slow this down, but we do see the Shadows Call. And again, that Spooky Charge is pipped into Shadows. So I think that's just what we're going to see here. Yep, there it is. All right, so game one going to Stormstrong. Again, it's hard to say, but that Rage Reset was pretty instrumental there, I think. Hit exactly the cards he needed. It's not my favorite card, but neither is Well of Memory, so and be a little bit indifferent here. Uh-oh. Okay, so both players accidentally chose the same one, again, using the short adaptive game mode as sort of a shortcut here. But you have to make sure you select the right decks. All right, so Karen now up top going to be on Skunkish, and then Stormstrong on Soybok. All right, we see a rigged lottery right off the bat, hitting just a bunch of Brobnar. So Fiery Jark and Recklessness, both pretty good ones to get out of the way. But I mean, you want to see Well of Memory there more than anything. Looks like we did get a mulligan from Stormstrong. Didn't notice if Karen did or not. Did not, because we didn't have a draw at the end. So Karen just wanted to do that rig lottery right off the bat. And on Karen's side, yikes. Very unfortunate hits there. She does get some amber, but both Hoodwinked and Rage Reset going in the discard is not good. We do see the Rig Lottery getting picked back up, though. Stormstrong having a very slow turn, just playing the Thunderdell. Parallel Thinking, discarding more Brobnar, Countryside Crusher, and then the Ravening Morphozoid. All stuff Stormstrong is happy to see in the discard. Just going to scoop all that up with a Winds of Death at some point, and then use it as fodder for the Well of Memory. But again, that Rage Reset being gone is pretty scary. Hoodwink being gone wasn't super impactful last game. I don't actually think we saw it played. Infomancer 2, though, has a potential for doing a lot of stuff. We do get a Trust Your Feelings for Geistoid here. And then the Zeph Punch Yardis coming down. Able to do some good recycling stuff. See if Stormstrong goes back into Brobnar and try and deal with this, or if we just see first Winds of Death here. It's hard to say what the profit or what the fate might be right now. Ooh, there's a plummet. We discard Ecto Charge, BR Geist, and Soul Exchange. Gotta be thinking Karen's probably going back into Shadows here just to do another rigged lottery. If nothing else, it gives you more information about what your opponent may or may not have. Still no Well of Memory, though. Mamet's gone. That's something you're happy to see, but so far, this is looking really good for Stormstrong. There's all kinds of cards that you don't mind being in the discard. Still have one Winds of Death left, 2 BR Geist left, and then Karen has lost not nearly as bad of stuff on that round. Mostly Untamed and Logo stuff you're not worried about losing. Is getting to check here with Miasma. Let's see if we get another Prophecy going. Uh-oh. I really hope it did not crash on them, but oh, it did. That is so unfortunate. I mean, there's no way to replicate game state. So we got to start again. This is the pain of TCO. Thankfully, we've only been playing for like 15 minutes. It's not like we're 2 hours into this. Games are going relatively quickly, so not a huge thing. But unfortunate for Stormstrong. I think Stormstrong was in a pretty strong spot based on what we'd seen in the discard there. That's how it goes. Yeah, TCO just having issues. If it happens again, I'm not quite sure what we do. If we, I don't know, postpone or just keep trying until it works. Tell them to play super fast before to get it finished before it boots them. See if this starts any different. So far, no. I'm not playing, but thank you. All right, we do get a mulligan from Stormstrong and no mulligan from Karen again, so Karen might just have the same strategy here. Yep, there's a rig lottery. Let's see what the damage is. BR Geist to Memorialize the Fallen, not too bad. Karen's side, not nearly as bad. It's there, one miasma gone, but not Rage Reset or any of that, so I think you're fine seeing this. Plenty of amber there too for Karen, getting up to 4, getting a stars aligned here, which does trigger just ditching the burnished nickels. Best use of burnished nickels, one of the best uses, is to stick it under a prophecy that you know will trigger immediately and get rid of it forever. All right, Equidon turn here for Stormstrong. Soul Exchange, discarding Recklessness. I feel like that's kind of telegraphing you have cards in your hand that you don't want discarded. See if Karen picks up on that. Does get back. Oh, put a card back in Karen's hand. What was that? Oh, the Burnished Nickels. No! The last card you want. And then getting a couple creatures on the board here. Those getting lost in the woods does not feel great if you're a Stormstrong. That's not what this deck wants, is creatures mixed back in. Karen gonna Invigorating Shower for the shadows here. And then Warflene's Stormstrong's deck. So again, lots of stuff getting put back in there. This deck wants plenty of stuff in its discard pile. So pretty good start here for Karen. Gets to just discard the Burnished Nickels off of the discard pip. Vivid Fairy coming down. Does not get something else on the other side of that. No prophecies. But still a very fine turn. Doesn't get to check. Ooh, there's the Recklessness. All right. We see BR Geist, Hallowed Eve, and Morphozoid going there. Getting some Brobnar stuff down. Just gonna ready and fight with the Barn Burner into the Loyal Packmate. And then discards on Karen's side were Infomancer, ZYX, and Designer Crick. Good hits from Stormstrong. Definitely stuff you don't want to lose if you're Karen. That ZYX especially is very handy in this deck. Still, plenty slowed down here for Stormstrong. Got a Shadows Call from Karen's side. Again, the Rig Lottery did get shuffled back in by the Invigorating Shower. Let's see if she found it here. Nope, there's a Hawk. So it does get to check, if nothing else. Might be deciding on some prophecies. There's a Bandit Culver. Could be a steal here. Yep, getting rid of Chummy. It's kind of an even trade there, I would say. This deck is not going to gain Amber super fast at the moment. There's a Trust Your Feelings for Geistoid. Karen, going to check at 7 here. Still haven't seen the Rage Reset, haven't seen Mercurial Wormhole, and then that Rigged Lottery can also be coming around. Stormstrong looking to just get a lot of stuff in the discard here, I think. But risky now with the Geistoid under Trust Your Feelings. Goes back into Brobnar. Gonna play a Recklessness. We lose Hoodwink, Rigged Lottery, and Mog off of Karen's side, and then we lose Rumor Sower, Harvest Skimmer, and Pull Up Stakes on Stormstrong side. So all stuff you're totally fine with here. There's the Plummet as well to just discard the rest of the hand. Clearing out the board. We do see the Mamet and the Winds of Death getting discarded here. Those two having the important discard pips in Geistoid. But you always have your BR Geist to get the Mamet back. Karen does get a key here, though. Hoodwink is gone, but again, this deck's not generating much Amber at the moment. Oh, yes, this is game 2. Good catch. Let me get my scores updated. Stormstrong taking game 1. Okay, Karen going into Untamed here. Consult the Bones for 1 Amber. Just had an Amber on it, so the actual hits off Consult the Bones not doing much there. Discarding the Spooky Charge, but putting another Prophecy under Stars Aligned. It's mostly just moving cards there. A little sad to see the Spooky Charge go, but again, could have a Bufo waiting before you kind of know it's coming, so. Stormstrong going into Equidon. We get a Hospitality for the Amber, Envoy of Acquire. Gonna hit the Mog and capture an Amber. And there's the Bonded Auctioneer getting discarded. That will be all right. Karen's having to think about this turn. I think at this point you kind of just want to force Stormstrong into doing some Geistoid turns if you can. So just keeping the board clear, but you don't have too much board control in this deck. So, and then pressuring Amber. We do see the parallel thinking. BR Geist and Ecto Charge. Very nice. Does get a steal there, but only 1 Amber, I believe, to steal. Oh no, I did have 2 Amber. Code Monkey. Archiving those two does not get you any Amber there, but we do have an Archon's Callback to get a nice big hand for this turn. And then we have the Stars Align doing a Predatory Lending, not doing anything there, but again, just getting it out of the way. Stormstrong going back into Equidon here. Very fast call, just trying to avoid this Prophecy as long as possible and keep digging. I mean, he's got to have the Well and Winds of Death here, right? There's only 6 cards left, but the longer you kind of keep them in hand, the better chance you're going to get hit by a Rage Reset. So it's tricky. It's really tricky with this one, but Karen also has to get lucky and actually hit the right cards there. See, Shadow's Call from Karen here. Both Moon Cursors coming down. Bone Rod onto the Rumor Sower. And then a miasma, 2 miasmas, getting to check. Going to be flipping the deck as well here, which is a little rough if you're going to get hit by a Winds of Death. And there's the stars aligned into Rage Reset, so just automatically hitting it and hitting that Well of Memory. So same boat, Stormstrong needs to get cycling, but notably, second Winds of Death is still either in hand or in deck, so should have a chance for a really big play with that, getting to archive tons. Especially, there should be, how many BR Geists are left? I think it's just one. Yeah, one BR Geist. And then Karen with the flip means she won't get any archives off this. But if you're Stormstrong, you also have to pick Geistoid to do it, which means this card is also going to flip. So we'll see what he decides to do here. Pretty tough to just go into Equidon at this point. These Moon Cursors start giving you a real hard time. You can fight them off, but you're not really gaining traction. Could try to stun him with a Rumor Sower, but see what he decides to do. It's interesting. I think chain bidding on this matchup is going to be tough. We've kind of seen Rage Reset really lucky in both. Okay, there is the Prince Bufo, which was under there before Karen was even in check. So a very well-timed there. Prince Bufo key cheat for Karen, getting up to key 2 with 1 amber. There is the Geistoid Call, though, from Stormstrong, going to be a BR Geist for Bonded Auctioneer. Discarding Reaver, plays Webster. Does not have the Winds of Death. Okay. And flips the deck. Interesting call there. Because you don't flip the deck if you don't get something with a discard pip, and if you Winds of Death after that, then you get to archive everything, including the Bonded Auctioneer. So to me, this feels more like Stormstrong's going to try and win out with an Equidon board, which I just don't think gets you there, especially against double Moon Cursors, which Karen doesn't even feel like she has to use, because Untamed is going to be better. Not going to be able to get to a key cheat here for sure, but there's the Mog coming down, doing some damage to this Equidon board. See if Karen has the second one. Consult the Bones, discards a Hawk and Old Tinker. Getting some more amber. Uses Low Dawn to put Prince Bufo back in the deck, so that key cheat threat's still going to be there. And there's the Lost in the Woods. Okay, so it does get to check here. Very few creatures in the discard means the Brobnar Amber control is not going to be as impactful. Gets rid of the Webster, leaves the 2 Moon Cursors on the board. And there's the Lithomancy, which the Bonded Auctioneer can actually hit. Discards the Candle unit. Interesting, but I think, oh, for the Stars Aligned. Okay, so we get the Predatory Landing on Stars Aligned to steal 2 more off of those Moon Cursors. There's Berserker Slam, there's Down to Size, and Looter Goblin. And I think that is going to be game 2. All right. So we are at 1-1, and we go on to chain bidding. Paste these here really quick. This is a tough one. I'm not sure what you bid on here. I think the GR deck has been high rolled. I don't know if it can quite keep up with the Amber generation, but the Amber generation isn't that crazy. And if you're starting to do, well, what's crazy is the Amber generation we maybe haven't gotten to see because there hasn't been Amber for it to steal. If the GR deck is actually generating more Amber for this to steal, then it might just actually be even faster than what we've seen. But I think if this Geistoid just gets to play the Well of Memory, gets to do some BR Geists, things turn around really quickly. So you do have some valuable things to hit over here. But I do think that the key cheats in the PV deck are really what make this the trickiest. Yes, you can get lucky with the Rage Reset, with which we saw both of them, both Rage Resets hit Well of Memory, which is kind of crazy. So well timed, we can at least say by both players. So if that doesn't happen, and the Well of Memory, like we haven't had a Well of Memory get played yet, which is crazy for a Soybot game. But again, I just don't know if Soybot has the answers for the 2 key cheats, especially one that can trigger before you even start your turn or just on your house call. So I think that makes it really tricky. Everybody in chat, you guys got any guesses or any bids? What would you do on this one? I do not know this player. Stormstrong bumping up to 6 here. No clue. It's a tough one. Obviously you would bid the correct amount. What am I saying? What kind of question even is that? Yeah, the randomness of, well, I mean, like there's actually not a ton of randomness. Like obviously you don't know what fate effect is under the prophecies, but the only one that like there's 2 main things that really hit you. Well, there's 3. So the Rage Reset is obviously the worst, and then Parallel Thinking and the Rigged Lottery, right, are kind of the cards that really can swing what this match looks like, even without chains. Those cards can be very hit or miss, and so far we've seen them hit pretty well. So the question is it enough with those 3 all together and some recursion to say that there is just always enough disruption from this deck to deal with it? Karen having a long think about the 6 chains. Karen does go to 7. All right. With the big jump to 6, I could see Stormstrong going to 8. Yeah, pretty quick here. And then Karen gives it to him on 8. So Stormstrong playing the PV deck versus Soybok. We'll see. See how this goes. 8 chains, not crazy, especially with the PV deck going first. Does get a pretty big starting hand, especially for those prophecies. You're going to get to cycle really fast. So chains on PV decks can be really tough. Lithomancy also going to give some visibility into what's coming at least, and some possible amber generation. Karen did not mulligan here, so we'll see what this play looks like. And there's a Trust Your Feelings for Barabnar. Karen going into Geistoid right away. We get a Mehmet with a discard. And the Bonded Auctioneer is going to bounce Lithomancy back to Stormstrong's hand, which definitely hurts. There's a Winds of Death archive, Harvest Skimmer, Bonded Auctioneer, and Mehmet. Not a bad start there from Karen. That Lithomancy going to be a nice extra chain for Stormstrong for a couple turns here, but for Seer is going to do some nice filtering at least. There's a Candle unit. Mercurial Wormhole into Code Monkey. So it doesn't get the house cheap, but the Code Monkey does feel good for some extra amber, and archiving that for Seer means it's coming back next turn probably for some more filtering. And there's the stars aligned also getting activated. So again, these prophecies making those chains very, very unimpactful pretty quick here. It's another thing, and something I wasn't even thinking of when they were chain bidding, is these are both fairly activatable prophecies. You do get a decent amount of extra mill from that. Trust Your Feelings is, oh, sorry. Yeah, Trust Your Feelings is for Brobnar here. Just gotta remember that one. We get a predatory lending for no value on that Trust Your Feelings. Brobnar Call here could be several different things, but you know that Logos is coming back, so it's hard to say if you use up a lot of your creature control here, but we do see Fiery Jark getting discarded and the Countryside Crusher. Stormstrong goes right back into Logos. Again, we're going to see that Seer come back. And the Candle unit, see what else he finds. Again, that Mercurial Wormhole not getting any value is pretty big. That means that is one piece of efficiency that didn't really get you out of chains as much as you had hoped. But decent line of Logos creatures here now. Karen already burned 1 Winds of Death and the Berserker Slam and the Jark. Can't get this Jark back until you're haunted now. And the Archon's callback going up to 8 amber, or 8 cards, only 2 amber. Okay, we get a Mog discard off the Trust Your Feelings there. No big deal. Fast Geistoid Call here from Karen. See if this is the second Winds of Death or maybe the Well already. Bring back the first one. We do see the archives taken, so there's the Holiday Festival as well. Met archives the Holiday Festival. Discards Bonded Auctioneer. Place an Ecto Charge for the Amber. Is haunted now, so the BR Geist can be able to bring back the Mamet, get the Ecto Charge into archives, discarding Iron Heidi, and discarding the Harvest Skimmer. No Winds of Death here, could still be pretty rough. Oh, there's the Winds of Death. Okay. That is definitely what Karen needed to see there. So both of them gone. But lots of pieces in that disc or in that archives now, and a very small deck to search through for your Well of Memory, and that's the last piece Karen needs to really get this going. It's still going to take some time, and again, the Amber Control and the Disruption Stormstrong deck still has options for slowing that down, but this is the strongest position we've seen Zoidbach in so far these games. By a decent amount, I would say. There's Rig Lottery. And there's the Well of Memory. Brutal. There's Hawk. There's a Hoodwink for a bunch of steel. We do see the Prince Bufo. Oh. And the Spooky Charge. Just for the reshuffle. Okay, so Spooky Charge there. Oh no, it does have the key because it's at 9 amber, so makes sense. Spooky Charge gets the key, but also reshuffles, so now the Memorialize the Fallen not going to be as impactful, but we do see that actually get milled by the Rig Lottery as well. So this Rig Lottery, nasty hits. So again, the Well of Memory gone for the 3rd game now. But 12 in archives, if you're Karen here, it's a tough call on whether you just keep cycling and try to get back to it fast or pull those archives to try and build a board, which it's really tough. What else do we have as far as actions? We still have 2 BR guys left. We do know the Hallowed Eve Festival is in the archives, as well as the Ecto Charges. Oh, I think the Ectocharge did get archived. But the Winds of Death are gone. We haven't seen the Plummet yet, right? So Plummet can get you some cycle really well here too. So we'll see. I don't think this is over yet, but it is definitely a big swing that turn, especially with the Hoodwink as well. Getting some decent Amber steel there, which again is something we haven't gotten to see too much in the first two games, how much steel there was. Karen goes into Brobnar here and does take the archives. Okay. We don't have the Shock Herder. Fiery Dart gonna take out the Bandit Culver. Get some Amber off of these pips. Countryside Crusher. And then just a big ol' lineup. Again, PV deck not having a lot of creature control. But the Lost in the Woods, I think, did get shuffled. This is really tough, though. There are a lot of discard pips, I guess, and if you do get the Hallowed Eve, you can still cycle without having to get down to a hand of 6. But I just think your Amber control is really hurting here with Memorialize and Berserker Slam already being in the discard. Okay, we get an Invigorating Shower for Untamed, putting Spooky Charge back in the deck. Warfling gonna hit Karen's deck there, so making that deck bigger, so that 12 card hand now just feels even worse. That said, this is a pretty nice looking Looter Goblin turn. One Reap there, one fight with Thunderdell gets you a nice 4 Amber, clear the board, and you still get to Reap with the other 2. I think this is still stuck on Geistoid, I believe. Yeah. Trust Your Feelings is waiting for Geistoid. Karen, though, if you go Brobnar, I don't think you're playing any more cards. I just saw all of them. No Recklessness, no Berserker Slam. The Hoodwink is gone, so you're not going to get as much stuff stolen from you outside of Chummies, which it's hard to know. This one might be a Chummy, but you can probably keep this one from going off now if you just keep control of this board. Well, maybe not. Going down to 3 is a little bit risky. It's only on a hand of 5, though, and no archives. I don't know. I think this is a tough spot for Karen. It was going so well, and then one rigged lottery changes the whole landscape. All right, there's the Geistoid Call, and it is a Mog, so it's a tough one. Now your Brobnar has to take a whole turn just to unstun to be useful. The Looter Goblin still works with the Plummet, right? So this is each time an enemy creature is destroyed. So if you just keep this alive until you find Plummet, but to find Plummet, you're going to have to get down to a hand of at least 5. And there's the Plummet and the Memorialize the Fallen getting discarded off the Hallowed Eve Festival. And Mehmet, though, going to be able to archive the Hallowed Eve Festival. Oh no, it'll archive whatever was discarded there. Yeah. Hey, Rigged Lottery has done a lot of work for me lately, too. All right, Bonded Auctioneer gets discarded. We see a BR Geist here. Finally, has to hit Karen's own deck here, though. Getting them at back. Taking out the Bufo this time. Archiving the Ectocharge. So that's going to be pretty live here. Again, the Holiday Festival going to be some pretty important amber control. And the Bufo is gone, so the only key cheat now is the Spooky Charge, which is a ways off from being live here for Stormstrong. I need to change my lighting soon. It's getting dark. Sun's getting real low. You can tell because my camera is starting to lag. Sorry, everyone. Just let it acclimate. There we go. All right, we're back. It's very bright. Is that on? It's on the lowest setting too. Okay, Stormstrong goes into Logos, immediately puts something under Geistoid for Trust Your Feelings. Could be the what's the Shadows card? Oh no, there's not the Predatory or the Creature Control Shadows card, is there? So Archon's callback at the end, going up to 8, and then getting up to 5 amber with the Code Monkey play. So smaller board for this Looter Goblin to get value off of, but again, we saw the Plummet gone anyways, so I would imagine we're just going to see more Geistoid here. Yeah, no, this has been very impressive. The only player really to do this, which some players might just like the variety, but we've seen it's been very successful for Karen so far, running with the same deck. All right, so we do get the Geistoid call there, and it is a chummy, so essentially a steal 2 for Stormstrong. Webster is going to fight off to discard the Spooky Charge and the Recklessness there. So seeing that gone does feel pretty good. We still have the Holiday, which is going to come back down. Doesn't have anything to hit, though, for the capture. Which I think we knew even with the Webster fight, right? Pull up Stakes, Recklessness, Old Tinker, we kind of already knew. Pen Pal and Fire Jark. There were no Geistoid creatures or cards left for that to capture. So really it's just the unfortunate chummy there, getting Stormstrong the key. And Karen is going to respond with a key of her own with the Ecto Charge. First key forged by the GR deck, I believe. BR Geist can hit. Man, there's a lot of tempting targets here. Stormstrong is haunted, so all of these Logos creatures are live. Code Monkey, ZYX, and Foreseer. Well, Foreseer doesn't look good here because you don't have a draw pile. But we do see the ZYX researcher going to archive the Holiday Festival. Again, getting you that Amber control, which can be very tricky in this game. Stormstrong going into Logos quickly here. Designer crit coming down. There's the Infomancer. Going to get Consult the Bones under it. Not the scariest one you've ever seen. And then there's a Trust Your Feelings for Geistoid again. Gotta think this is going to be Rage Reset pretty soon. We haven't seen it yet, but otherwise not as high pressure turn as we've seen this PV deck doing so far. So could be a little bit of breathing room for Karen depending on what this prophecy is. It's tricky. Could go into Brobnar, but you're just unstunning stuff. Equidon does not give you a whole lot of value in this deck most of the time. I feel like you probably want to deal with the board a little bit too. It is Equidon now. All right. So this could be pull up Stakes. Would not be the worst thing to see here. Bonded Auctioneer comes down. We'll be scrolling here soon. Discard is going to make Designer Crit capture 1. And the card draw. This is a really interesting card. You don't see it super often. Obviously, it's rare. You can keep it alive. It does a lot of work. There's the Envoy coming down with a damage and a capture. Going on to the Reaver. Then the damage hitting them a Met, which is going to archive a Shock Herder. And then Rumor Sower and Iron Heidi. Soul Exchange going to be able to put the Foreseer back in Stormstrong's hand, but going to be able to destroy one of these. Does get the Infomancer. Okay. So in this scenario, for Karen, I think you actually want to see just like double Winds of Death. Clear the board and then archive it. Your Memorialize does have some value here now. And again, you're a little bit less worried with both of these key cheats gone and the Invigorating Shower gone. So I think you're kind of out of the woods for now on those. But you have a lot of other stuff to get past. Rage Reset, Miasmas, Mercurial Wormhole is back in it. Stormstrong going into Logos. Makes sense. Got the Foreseer back. Has some pretty good value with this Zeph Punchy Artist as well. Check what's on the top of the deck with Foreseer first, though. So here's a question for you all while Stormstrong decides what to pick up with this Foreseer. Which do you like between Foreseer and Igor? So Igor is, I guess Foreseer's got the After Reap. That makes it maybe a little bit better, but Igor can discard some cards. Ooh, there's the parallel thinking hitting the archives. So knowing you're not getting any steal there, but getting rid of that piece of Amber Control pretty big, and that piece of milling, right? Which Karen's flipped the deck, so I don't think you want to mill too much at this point anyways, but that does give you a nice out when you have to do a Geistoid turn to be able to do some Amber Control. See a Brobnar call. All right, this could be a plummet. Plummet here, I think, if you have the hand for it. Only scary thing is, again, if this is Rage Reset and you have to... Oh, there's a Recklessness hits a Winds of Death. Interesting. Looter Goblin Reaps. Everything unstuns. Fiery Jark, very nice here. Especially with the Looter Goblin, you're going to get some nice amber. You're going to get to remove this whole board, basically. You get to get the stuff you want in your discard so that it gets picked up by Winds of Death or the Well of Memory. So we see... Iron Heidi go. Bonded Auctioneer. And the Envoy. So all that Equidon stuff getting destroyed. Getting plenty of value off of the Looter Goblin. Lots of cards in hand and archive though for Stormstrong, including 2 Miasmas still in the deck. Moon Cursor is not going to do as much for you, except if you can get the Predatory Lending off at the same time. Chummy we know is gone. Parallel Thinking is also gone. All right. So this deck actually not super high on creature or on amber control either. So might be a little breathing room here for Karen. Getting this key would be pretty big. Yeah, that's probably a good way of saying it. Igor is better for the combos, and then Forseer is better for value. Until you Igor, and all you see is your 3 combo cards. Binate and Brig, or Interdimensional Graft. You can only pick up one of them. Tale as old as time. All right, Stormstrong going back into Logos has the large hand, large archives, does get a parallel thinking off here for some steel to stop the key there. Very, very big. Hitting the deck, which hits the Memorialize the Fallen. Oof. Not the card Karen wanted to see get discarded there. Plays the Rage Reset. Okay, so that's huge for Karen to see that the Rage Reset is not under here. Carry a Wormhole into Shadows. Gonna be able to play a bunch more stuff here for more Amber. With that Memorialize gone, I don't know if Karen's gonna have enough Amber control. We've also got the Hallowed Eve is gone. Bone Rock gets played. I don't know if you can be our Geist for anything that's really gonna help you. There's a rigged lottery for some more Amber. We see the second Winds of Death and be our Geist. Only one card left in draw, so Well has to be in hand here. You can get back the Hallowed Eve, but you don't have a draw pile for it to hit to actually do the capture. And then, of course, we've got the Moon Cursors coming down, as well as the Candle unit. Going up to 8 Amber. See if this is enough. No Amber control represented on board. Pretty much all of it in the discard. Berserker Slam as well getting discarded. Where do we have capture pips? I know there's one on... Oh, Envoy, yeah, got discarded. Robnar call for Recklessness to flip a deck and does not find it. Flip the deck for Stormstrong as well, so would have been tough for that to be enough Amber control, but there you go. Stormstrong pulling it out against Karen, taking it to, whoops, 2-1. Yeah, some crazy games. Definitely some PV shenanigans going on there, but happened both ways in games 1 and 2. The Rage Reset really hit right where it needed to. Game 3 here, though, that Rig Lottery was just brutal. Definitely set this GR back. I still, like, again, having only lost when playing Soybach. I can't say what's right. I do wonder when you have the big archives of 12 if you're supposed to hold it or try to play it out and try and pressure the board control of this deck, or hold it just to try and cycle back into your actions and your artifact. But either way, game is over now. Stormstrong moving on to the finals against JDG. Spoilers if you haven't seen that one yet, but it happened over like a week ago. So there you have it. Yeah, 2 very, very good players. Both played well in this for sure. So yeah, good games. And let me just triple check I got the logs here. All right, Snoopy, we got all 3 games. Hopefully you don't have to transcribe another one as long as you live, but there you have it. So be on the lookout for that final match. We'll get that scheduling. Again, this is going to be 2 North America players, so time zones might not be the most EU friendly, but we'll see what the players can do for that. But hopefully that's going to be happening in the next week here, possibly this weekend, but we'll let the players talk and decide what works for them. Congrats to Karen, though. Again, it's been quite the run doing this both here and in Kagi Top Cut. So we'll see. I think she's still in that one. So we'll see if she can come home with one trophy. But Stormstrong moving on to the finals here. Thank you everyone so much for watching and supporting Final Refrain. We will see you in the finals. Take care, everybody.